What if I told you that the most productive people in 2025 don't start their day when they wake up? They actually start it the night before with a specific 10-minute routine that sets them up for success. People who plan their days the evening before complete 47% more high-priority tasks than those who plan in the morning. Neuroscientists report your brain restructures priorities overnight, so you wake with a clear to-do list already organized. Remote workers have adapted this principle by using a brief evening review to separate work and personal time, creating boundaries that didn't exist in traditional office environments. The method is so effective that top performers refuse to skip it, even when they're exhausted. This simple shift in timing changes everything about how your brain approaches the next day. The science behind evening planning. The difference between high achievers and everyone else starts before they even wake up. While most people stumble into their mornings checking phones and reacting to whatever demands come their way, successful individuals in 2025 have already won the day through a specific evening routine that takes just 10 minutes. This practice has become so essential that CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top performers treat it as non-negotiable, even when they're exhausted from 16-hour workdays. What makes this evening ritual so powerful that people refuse to skip it? The answer lies in how your brain processes information during sleep. When you plan your day before going to bed, you're not just organizing tasks, you're activating your brain's natural problem-solving mechanisms that work throughout the night. Neuroscientists have discovered that during sleep, your brain continues processing the information you reviewed before bed, making connections and solving problems subconsciously. Recent psychological research reveals that evening planning dramatically reduces what scientists call decision fatigue. Every decision you make during the day depletes your mental energy, from choosing what to wear to deciding which task to tackle first. By making these decisions the night before, you preserve your mental resources for the work that actually matters. Your brain wakes up with a clear roadmap instead of having to create one while simultaneously processing emails, phone calls, and immediate demands. The numbers prove this approach works. Updated research from 2025 shows that people who plan their days the evening before complete 47% more high-priority tasks than those who plan in the morning. This isn't a small improvement. This represents nearly doubling your effectiveness on the work that moves your career and business forward. The evening planners also report feeling more in control and less stressed throughout their days. Here's what happens when you shift your planning to the evening. Your brain creates a mental framework that operates subconsciously overnight. While you sleep, your mind works on the challenges and projects you've identified, often providing solutions and insights when you wake up. This process, which researchers call incubation, turns your sleep into productive time that benefits your next day's performance. Digital entrepreneurs and remote workers have adapted this principle for modern work environments in fascinating ways. Sarah, who runs a 7-figure online business, spends 10 minutes each evening reviewing her calendar and writing down her 3 most important tasks for the next day. She keeps a notebook beside her bed specifically for this purpose. Marcus, a software developer working across multiple time zones, uses his evening planning time to prepare for international calls and organize his development priorities before the global workday begins. The beauty of evening planning becomes clear when you consider what happens to people who try to plan everything in the morning. Your brain is already processing immediate demands from the moment you wake up. Emails are arriving, phone calls need returning, and urgent requests compete for attention. Trying to create a thoughtful plan while managing these immediate pressures is like trying to read a map while driving in heavy traffic. You can do it, but you'll miss important details and make poor decisions. Most people make the mistake of believing that planning is simply organizing tasks. In reality, planning functions as mental rehearsal that primes your mind for success. When you write down tomorrow's priorities and visualize completing them, you're creating neural pathways that make execution easier. Athletes use mental rehearsal to improve performance, and the same principle applies to daily productivity. Your brain treats the act of planning as a practice session for the real thing. Professional coaches who work with executives have noticed that evening planning helps their clients maintain focus despite constant interruptions. When you know exactly what you need to accomplish before the day begins, unexpected requests don't derail your entire schedule. You can quickly evaluate whether an interruption deserves immediate attention or can wait until you've completed your planned priorities. The timing of evening planning matters more than most people realize. Planning right before bed ensures that your priorities are the last thing your conscious mind processes before sleep. This positioning takes advantage of what psychologists call the primacy and recency effects. Information processed just before sleep gets preferential treatment during the brain's overnight consolidation process. Remote workers have discovered that evening planning helps them create boundaries between work and personal time. Instead of carrying work stress into the evening, they download everything onto paper and mentally close the workday. This practice helps them sleep better and wake up refreshed, rather than anxious about forgotten tasks or unclear priorities. The most successful people treat evening planning as a form of investment rather than overhead. They understand that 10 minutes of focused planning saves hours of confusion, indecision, and misdirected effort the next day. This time investment pays compound returns throughout the following day, as decisions get made faster and priorities stay clear despite distractions. Evening planning also helps people recognize patterns in their productivity and energy levels. When you consistently review what you accomplished and plan what comes next, you start noticing which types of tasks work best at different times of day. This awareness allows you to optimize your schedule based on your natural rhythms rather than fighting against them. The foundation that evening planning creates determines everything that follows in your daily structure. Without this foundation, even the best productivity techniques become ineffective because you're constantly making decisions about what to do next, instead of executing predetermined priorities. Morning planning forces you to make these critical decisions when your brain is already handling multiple demands and distractions. Evening planning creates what researchers call cognitive momentum that carries through the entire next day. This momentum comes from having clear direction and purpose from the moment you wake up. Instead of spending the first hour of your day figuring out what to do, you can immediately begin working on your most important priorities while your mental energy is fresh and your focus is sharp. But here's where most people stumble. They understand the power of evening planning, yet they sabotage themselves with the very tool they use to capture their thoughts and organize their priorities. The modern list-making revolution. The culprit is usually their list-making approach. Most people create to-do lists that actually sabotage their productivity. Current research reveals that traditional to-do lists fail 73% of people who try to use them consistently. These individuals start with good intentions, write down their tasks, and then find themselves overwhelmed, distracted, or unable to complete what they planned. The problem isn't their motivation or work ethic. The problem is that conventional list-making methods work against how your brain naturally processes information and makes decisions. Meanwhile, a specific type of list-making increases productivity by 34% in 2025. The difference between effective and ineffective lists isn't what you might expect. It's not about using fancy apps or complex systems. The distinction lies in understanding how your brain responds to different formats and methods of recording tasks. When you align your list-making approach with your brain's natural processing patterns, the simple act of writing things down becomes a powerful tool for focus and completion. Traditional list-making methods create what researchers call cognitive overload. Most people write down everything they can think of without structure or hierarchy. They mix urgent tasks with long-term projects, combine work items with personal errands, and create lists that overwhelm rather than organize. When your brain looks at a chaotic list of 15 unrelated items, it struggles to know where to start and often chooses the easiest tasks instead of the most important ones. The act of writing tasks down doesn't just help you remember what to do. It literally rewires your brain's neural pathways for focus. Neuroscientists have discovered that the physical process of writing activates multiple brain regions simultaneously. When you write by hand, your motor cortex controls the movement, your visual cortex processes what you're creating, and your prefrontal cortex organizes the information. This multi-region activation creates stronger neural connections than simply thinking about tasks or typing them into a device. Updated research shows that handwritten lists activate different brain regions than digital lists, leading to better task completion rates. When you write by hand, your brain must slow down and process each letter, word, and concept more deliberately. This slower processing creates deeper encoding in your memory and stronger commitment to the tasks you've written. Digital typing happens so quickly that your brain doesn't form the same strong neural pathways or emotional connections to the work you've planned. Jennifer, a marketing director who manages campaigns across 5 time zones, discovered this difference when she switched from digital task management back to handwritten planning. She uses a notebook for her daily priorities and then transfers completed items to her digital project management system for team coordination. This combination gives her the focus benefits of handwriting while maintaining the collaboration advantages of digital tools. Successful people in 2025 combine analog and digital methods for maximum impact. They understand that each method serves different purposes in their productivity system. Handwriting works best for clarifying thinking, setting priorities, and creating commitment to important tasks. Digital tools excel at managing deadlines, coordinating with teams, and storing reference information. The most effective approach uses both methods strategically, rather than choosing one over the other. The specific format that separates high achievers from average performers involves 3 distinct categories on every daily list. The first category contains no more than 3 high-impact tasks that directly advance your most important goals. The second category includes routine tasks that must be completed but don't require deep focus or creative thinking. The third category serves as a capture space for ideas, requests, and items that need future attention but shouldn't distract from today's priorities. This 3-category format works because it matches how your brain naturally processes different types of information. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles complex thinking and decision-making, can only focus on a limited number of demanding tasks at once. By limiting your high-impact category to 3 items, you respect this biological constraint while ensuring your most important work gets proper attention. The physical act of writing clarifies thinking at a neurological level, making complex projects feel manageable. When you have a large project swimming around in your head, it feels overwhelming because your brain can't grasp all the components simultaneously. Writing forces you to break down the project into specific, actionable steps. This breakdown process activates your brain's natural problem-solving mechanisms and transforms vague anxiety into concrete action plans. David, who manages software development projects, spends 5 minutes each morning writing out the specific tasks for his current sprint. He doesn't just write work on app features. He writes complete user authentication module, test payment processing integration, and review code for mobile responsiveness. This specificity helps his brain understand exactly what needs to happen and creates clear stopping points for each work session. Effective lists also include time estimates for each task. When you write prepare quarterly report without considering how long it takes, you set yourself up for frustration and poor scheduling. Writing prepare quarterly report 2 hours helps your brain understand the true scope of your commitments and make realistic plans for your day. This time awareness prevents the common mistake of overcommitting and feeling constantly behind schedule. The language you use in your lists influences your brain's response to the tasks. Action-oriented phrases like complete, finish, send, and decide create stronger implementation intentions than vague phrases like work on or think about. Your brain responds better to specific actions than general categories because specific language activates the motor cortex, regions responsible for physical movement and execution. Effective list-making creates what psychologists call implementation intentions that automatically guide behavior throughout your day. When you write a task in the proper format at the right time, your brain creates a pre-planned response pattern. This means you don't have to decide what to do next when you finish a task. Your brain already knows the next action because you've programmed it during your planning session. But having a perfectly organized list means nothing if you can't identify which tasks actually matter. Even the most sophisticated list-making system fails when people spend entire days completing low-value activities while their most important work sits untouched. The modern workplace has made this challenge more complex than ever before, the 80-20 rule in the digital age. Constant connectivity has created unprecedented challenges for identifying what truly matters. The 80-20 rule has transformed dramatically in 2025. Some industries now see 95-5 distributions, where just 5% of activities generate 95% of meaningful results. This shift makes identifying your highest impact work more critical than ever before. The concentration of value has become so extreme that spending time on the wrong activities can waste entire weeks of effort while your most important work sits untouched. Most people waste entire days on activities that contribute almost nothing to their success. They respond to every email immediately, attend meetings without clear agendas, and complete tasks that feel productive but create no real value. Meanwhile, the work that could advance their careers, grow their businesses, or solve their biggest problems remains on their list day after day. This pattern destroys productivity and creates a constant feeling of being busy without making progress. Digital distractions have made identifying truly important tasks more challenging, but also more crucial than ever. Your phone buzzes with notifications every few minutes. Your email inbox fills with requests that feel urgent but rarely are. Social media platforms and news websites compete for your attention with designed to interrupt content. These digital interruptions fragment your thinking and make it harder to step back and evaluate which activities actually matter for your long-term success. The constant connectivity of modern work creates what researchers call attention residue. When you switch between tasks frequently, part of your brain remains focused on the previous activity. This mental residue reduces your ability to think clearly about priorities and makes everything feel equally important. The result is days filled with reactive work rather than strategic thinking about what truly moves your life and career forward. Current data shows that people who properly apply priority setting complete 2.3 times more meaningful work than those who don't. This isn't a small improvement. This represents more than doubling your effectiveness on the activities that create real results. The difference comes from spending more time on high-value work and less time on activities that feel productive but contribute little to your actual goals. Remote workers and entrepreneurs have developed specific methods to identify their highest leverage activities in modern work environments. Maria, who runs a consulting business, starts each week by asking herself which 3 activities would have the biggest impact on her revenue if completed perfectly. She ignores everything else until these 3 activities are finished. This focus has allowed her to double her income while working fewer hours than when she tried to handle everything at once. James, a software developer working for a distributed team, uses a different approach. He tracks which coding tasks lead to features that customers actually use and pay for. This data helps him identify patterns in high-value work. He discovered that certain types of performance improvements generate far more customer satisfaction than new features, even though new features feel more exciting to build. This insight changed how he prioritizes his development time. The modern phenomenon of busy work created by constant connectivity makes cutting through distractions essential for success. Busy work includes responding to non-critical emails, attending meetings without clear outcomes, and completing tasks that keep you occupied but don't advance your goals. Constant connectivity makes this busy work feel important because it involves interacting with other people and responding to requests. However, staying busy is not the same as being productive. Successful people ask specific questions to identify their most valuable tasks each day. The first question they ask is which activities on their list would create the biggest positive impact if completed perfectly. They don't just think about which tasks are urgent or which ones other people are requesting. They focus on which activities would actually move their most important goals forward if done well. The second question that high achievers ask is what would happen if they ignored certain tasks completely. Many activities feel important but would have no negative consequences if left undone. Identifying these phantom priorities helps people eliminate time-wasting work that masquerades as essential tasks. This elimination creates space for activities that generate real results. The third question successful people ask themselves is which tasks only they can do versus which tasks could be delegated or eliminated entirely. This question helps identify the unique value they bring to their work and ensures they focus their time on activities that match their skills and responsibilities. Spending time on tasks that others could handle better is a waste of high-value resources. Traditional priority systems break down in fast-changing work environments because they assume stable conditions and predictable workflows. The old approach of categorizing tasks as A, B, or C priorities worked when projects had clear timelines and requirements stayed consistent. Modern work involves constant changes in direction, shifting deadlines, and evolving requirements that make rigid priority systems ineffective. What works instead is focusing on the fundamental principle behind the 80-20 rule rather than specific categorization methods. This principle says that a small number of activities will always generate the majority of your results. Instead of trying to rank every task, successful people identify the few activities that matter most and protect time for these activities regardless of other demands. The key is asking yourself, what would create the biggest positive impact if you could only complete one major task today? This question forces you to think beyond daily maintenance work and focus on activities that actually advance your most important goals. When you can only choose one thing, your brain naturally filters out lower-value activities and identifies what truly matters. The ability to identify and focus on high-impact work has become the ultimate competitive advantage in 2025. While everyone has access to the same digital tools and information, the people who succeed are those who can filter through distractions and focus their energy on activities that create real results. This skill separates high performers from people who stay busy but never achieve their most important goals. However, knowing which tasks matter most means nothing if you can't maintain focus long enough to complete them properly. The modern world seems designed to prevent single-tasking in a multitasking world. The most productive people in 2025 do exactly the opposite of what technology encourages. While every device, app, and platform pushes you to juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, high performers deliberately focus on one thing at a time. This approach goes against everything our digital environment promotes. Yet it's become the secret weapon that separates successful people from those who stay busy but never accomplish meaningful work. Technology companies design their products to capture and fragment your attention. They profit when you switch between apps, respond to notifications, and divide your focus across multiple streams of information. The more you multitask, the more engaged you appear to be with their platforms. However, what benefits their business models destroys your productivity and mental performance. Research reveals that multitasking reduces productivity by up to 40% and increases errors by 50%. Yet most people still attempt it daily. These numbers represent massive losses in output and quality that compound over time. Someone who multitasks throughout their workday effectively works at 60% capacity while making twice as many mistakes. Over weeks and months, this performance reduction creates enormous gaps between their potential and actual results. Despite overwhelming evidence against multitasking, people continue attempting it because it feels productive. Switching between tasks creates a sense of momentum and busyness that tricks your brain into believing you're accomplishing more than you actually are. The constant activity masks the reality that you're working inefficiently and producing lower quality results than if you focused on one task at a time. The neuroscience behind multitasking reveals why the human brain literally cannot multitask effectively. Your brain doesn't actually perform multiple tasks simultaneously. Instead, it rapidly switches attention between different activities. Each switch requires mental energy and creates delays as your brain disengages from one task and reorients to another. This switching process consumes cognitive resources that could otherwise be used for thinking, creating, and problem solving. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles complex thinking and decision-making, can only focus on one demanding task at a time. When you attempt to multitask, you force this critical brain region to constantly shift gears instead of maintaining deep focus on important work. This shifting creates mental fatigue and reduces your ability to think clearly about complex problems or generate creative solutions. Research from 2025 shows that single tasking with proper focus can increase output quality by 60% while reducing stress levels. This improvement comes from allowing your brain to enter what psychologists call flow states, where your full cognitive capacity focuses on one activity. In flow states, your work feels effortless, time seems to pass quickly, and you produce your highest quality output with less mental strain. Successful professionals create focus blocks that protect their most important work from digital interruptions. These blocks involve scheduling specific periods when they work on single tasks without checking email, responding to messages, or switching to other activities. Lisa, financial advisor, schedules 2-hour focus blocks each morning for client research and investment analysis. During these blocks, she turns off all notifications and puts her phone in another room. This protection allows her to complete complex analysis work that would take twice as long with interruptions. Managing constant notifications while staying accessible requires specific strategies that top performers have developed. They distinguish between urgent and important communications by setting clear criteria for what deserves immediate attention. Most messages feel urgent, but aren't actually time-sensitive. True emergencies are rare in most professions, yet people treat every notification as if it requires immediate response. Successful people batch their communication into specific time slots instead of responding to messages throughout the day. They might check email at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m., giving their full attention to messages during these periods, while protecting focus time between communication sessions. This batching ensures they stay responsive without allowing messages to fragment their attention during deep work periods. Maintaining deep focus for extended periods requires specific techniques that successful people have mastered. The first technique involves creating physical boundaries between focused work and communication tools. This might mean working on a computer that doesn't have social media or email access, or using apps that block distracting websites during focus periods. The second technique involves training your attention like a muscle through deliberate practice. People who excel at single tasking start with shorter focus periods and gradually extend them over time. They might begin with 20-minute focus blocks and work up to 2-hour sessions as their concentration improves. This gradual progression builds mental stamina without creating frustration or failure. Task switching creates cognitive residue that reduces mental performance for up to 23 minutes after each interruption. This residue means that even brief interruptions have lasting effects on your ability to think clearly and work efficiently. When someone interrupts your focused work for just 2 minutes, you lose much more than 2 minutes of productivity. You lose the deep thinking state you were in, plus the additional time needed to regain that level of focus. Understanding cognitive residue helps explain why people who constantly switch between tasks never achieve their full potential. They spend most of their time in reduced capacity states instead of reaching the deep focus that produces their best work. The few minutes saved by quickly checking email or responding to messages cost much more in reduced performance and extended task completion times. Single tasking is a learnable skill that becomes easier with practice. People who struggle with focus often believe they lack natural concentration abilities, but research shows that attention can be trained and improved over time. The key is consistent practice with gradually increasing challenges rather than expecting immediate mastery of extended focus periods. Regular practice strengthens the neural pathways responsible for sustained attention while weakening the patterns associated with distraction-seeking behavior. Over time, focused work becomes more natural and effortless while multitasking feels increasingly uncomfortable and inefficient. However, developing focus skills means nothing if you can't finish what you start. The project completion mindset. Successful people think in terms of completed projects, not busy hours, and this shift in mindset changes everything about how they approach their work and measure their progress. While most people focus on how many hours they worked or how busy they stayed throughout the day, high achievers measure their success by what they actually finished. This distinction transforms how they allocate their time, energy, and attention because completion creates real results while busyness only creates the illusion of progress. Most people start multiple projects but finish few, leading to a constant feeling of being behind and overwhelmed. They begin new initiatives with enthusiasm, work on them for a while, then get distracted by other opportunities or urgent requests. Over time, they accumulate dozens of partially completed projects that drain their mental energy and create persistent anxiety. Every unfinished project occupies space in their mind, even when they're not actively working on it, creating mental overhead that reduces their ability to focus on current tasks. This pattern of starting without finishing creates what researchers call the Zeigarnik effect, where your brain continues processing incomplete tasks in the background. Your subconscious mind keeps running programs for every unfinished project, using cognitive resources that could otherwise be directed toward focused work on your current priorities. The result is feeling mentally scattered and having difficulty concentrating deeply on any single task because part of your brain remains occupied with everything you haven't completed. The brain's reward systems are triggered by completion, not progress, making finishing projects crucial for sustained motivation and long-term productivity. Your brain releases dopamine when you complete tasks, creating positive feelings that motivate you to tackle additional work. This neurochemical reward only happens when you finish something completely, not when you make partial progress. People who focus on completion rather than activity create regular dopamine releases that fuel continued productivity and maintain enthusiasm for their work. Research shows that people who focus on completion rather than activity report 40% higher job satisfaction and achievement in their careers. This improvement comes from experiencing regular success and building confidence through finished projects. When you complete projects consistently, you develop a track record of success that reinforces your belief in your ability to handle challenging work. This confidence creates a positive feedback loop where past completions make future projects feel more manageable and achievable. The completion mindset also helps people choose better projects to pursue. When you know you must finish everything you start, you become more selective about which opportunities deserve your attention. This selectivity prevents overcommitment and ensures you have the time and energy needed to complete your chosen projects well. People who think in terms of completion ask different questions about new opportunities, focusing on whether they can realistically finish the project rather than whether it sounds interesting or potentially valuable. Modern professionals break large projects into completable segments to maintain momentum and motivation throughout extended work periods. Instead of viewing a 3-month project as one massive undertaking, they divide it into weekly or daily completable pieces. Each small completion triggers the brain's reward system and provides evidence of progress toward the larger goal. This approach prevents the discouragement that comes from working for weeks without experiencing the satisfaction of finishing anything. Rachel, a marketing manager who runs product launches, breaks every campaign into daily completable tasks. Instead of working on launch preparation for weeks without clear endpoints, she creates specific daily outcomes like completing the email sequence, finalizing the landing page copy, or setting up the analytics tracking. Each completed task gives her a sense of accomplishment and maintains her motivation throughout the multi-week launch process. The psychological benefits of checking items off lists extend far beyond simple organization, because this simple act releases dopamine that fuels further productivity and creates positive momentum throughout your day. The physical act of marking something complete triggers your brain's reward center, providing immediate satisfaction and motivation to tackle the next task. This neurochemical response explains why people feel energized after completing tasks and why finished work feels more satisfying than partial progress. Starting new tasks before finishing current ones creates mental overhead that reduces overall performance and fragments your attention across multiple, incomplete projects. Each unfinished project requires mental energy to track its status, remember next steps, and maintain awareness of deadlines. This overhead increases exponentially as the number of incomplete projects grows, eventually consuming so much mental capacity that you struggle to make meaningful progress on any individual project. The most productive people resist the temptation to start new projects when current work nears completion. They understand that the final 20% of any project often requires the most focus and attention to detail. Starting something new during this critical phase divides attention when completion requires concentrated effort. They protect their completion phase by declining new opportunities until current projects are finished. This mindset shift can be applied immediately to current work by conducting a project audit and identifying everything you've started but not finished. Make a list of all incomplete projects, estimate the work required to complete each one, and choose the most important projects to finish first. Set completion deadlines for each chosen project and resist starting anything new until you've reduced your list of incomplete work. Project completion creates a positive feedback loop that builds confidence and increases future success rates because each finished project proves your ability to follow through and deliver results. This track record of completion becomes a psychological asset that makes future projects feel more achievable. People who consistently finish what they start develop strong self-efficacy beliefs that enhance their performance on subsequent challenges and opportunities. However, even the strongest completion mindset can be undermined by the wrong tools and systems. The digital productivity landscape has become cluttered with options that promise to enhance your effectiveness, but often create more problems than they solve. Digital tools that actually work. The key is finding tools that actually support your productivity instead of creating new problems to solve. Most people download productivity apps with high hopes, only to abandon them within weeks. Current data reveals that 67% of productivity apps are abandoned within 30 days, creating a graveyard of digital tools that promise transformation but delivered frustration. This massive abandonment rate isn't random. It reveals fundamental problems with how people choose and implement digital productivity systems. The wrong digital tools can actually decrease productivity by creating more complexity than they solve. Many productivity apps overwhelm users with features, settings, and customization options that require hours to configure properly. People spend more time learning the tool than using it for actual work. They get caught up in organizing their productivity system instead of being productive. The complexity creates additional decisions about how to categorize tasks, which tags to use, and how to structure their information. These decisions consume mental energy that could be directed toward important work. Technology companies often design productivity apps to showcase impressive feature lists rather than solve real productivity problems. They add notifications, gamification elements, and social features that create more distractions than they eliminate. Users find themselves checking their productivity app constantly, responding to achievement badges, and comparing their progress with other users. The tool becomes another source of interruption rather than a solution for focus and efficiency. Successful people in 2025 choose tools based on simplicity and integration rather than features and flashiness. They look for apps that do one thing exceptionally well instead of trying to handle every aspect of productivity. Simple tools require less mental overhead to operate and integrate more easily with existing workflows. These users would rather master one straightforward tool than struggle with a complex system that offers more capabilities than they actually need. Integration becomes crucial because productive people use multiple tools that must work together smoothly. They choose apps that sync effortlessly with their email, calendar, and communication platforms. When tools integrate properly, information flows between systems without manual data entry or duplicate work. This integration eliminates the friction that causes people to abandon productivity systems when they become more work than they're worth. Top performers combine digital and analog methods for maximum effectiveness, rather than choosing one approach exclusively. They use digital tools for scheduling, deadlines, and collaboration, while maintaining handwritten lists for daily priorities and creative thinking. This combination leverages the strengths of each method without trying to force one system to handle every productivity need. Jessica, a project manager for a technology company, uses her phone's calendar for meetings and deadlines, but writes her daily task list by hand each morning. The calendar handles time-sensitive commitments that need coordination with other people. The handwritten list helps her think clearly about priorities and provides the satisfaction of crossing off completed items. She never tries to make her digital calendar replace her analog planning because each tool serves different purposes in her productivity system. The common trap of spending more time managing productivity systems than actually being productive affects millions of people who mistake system optimization for real work. They constantly tweak settings, reorganize categories, and search for better ways to structure their digital tools. This optimization becomes a form of productive procrastination that feels like progress, but doesn't advance their actual goals. Hours disappear into system management, while important projects remain unfinished. Key criteria separate useful productivity tools from digital clutter that wastes time and mental energy. Useful tools solve specific problems you currently face rather than problems you might have someday. They integrate with your existing workflow instead of requiring you to change how you work. They reduce the number of decisions you need to make rather than adding new choices to your day. They provide immediate value without extensive setup or learning curves. The best digital tools enhance rather than replace fundamental productivity principles like planning and prioritization. They support good habits instead of trying to create entirely new workflows. Effective tools make it easier to plan your day, set priorities, and track progress toward important goals. They amplify the impact of proven productivity principles rather than promising to revolutionize how you work. Calendar apps enhance time blocking by making it easy to schedule focused work sessions and protect them from interruptions. Task management apps enhance priority setting by helping you organize and track your most important work. Note-taking apps enhance capture and review processes by making information easily searchable and accessible. These tools support fundamental productivity practices without trying to replace the thinking and discipline required for effective time management. AI-powered productivity tools show particular promise because they handle routine tasks automatically while supporting human decision-making. The most productive teams are 242% more likely to be using AI tools that eliminate repetitive work and provide quick insights for better planning. Workers save around 3.6 hours per week using automation tools that handle mundane tasks, freeing time for creative and strategic thinking. Tools are only as effective as the consistent behaviors they support, making habit formation more important than tool selection. The most sophisticated productivity app becomes useless if you don't use it consistently. Simple tools used daily outperform complex systems used sporadically. This reality explains why many people achieve better results with basic tools like notebooks and simple calendars than with elaborate digital systems they use inconsistently. The most productive people use fewer tools more consistently rather than trying every new productivity app that promises better results. They resist the temptation to constantly switch tools and instead focus on mastering the systems they've chosen. However, even the best tools and systems fail when people ignore the most fundamental aspect of sustainable productivity: energy management over time management. That fundamental aspect is understanding how your body's natural energy cycles determine when you can perform your best work. Time management is becoming obsolete in 2025. Energy management is what separates high performers from everyone else who struggles to maintain consistent productivity throughout their days. The most successful people have discovered that scheduling tasks based on when they have the right energy for specific work produces dramatically better results than trying to force important activities into arbitrary time slots. Traditional time blocking fails when your energy levels don't match your scheduled tasks, creating frustration and poor performance despite good intentions. You might schedule your most important creative work for 2 p.m., but if your energy peaks at 9 a.m. and crashes after lunch, you're fighting against your biology instead of working with it. The result is struggling through critical tasks when your brain can't perform at its best, leading to lower quality output and longer completion times than necessary. Most people experience this mismatch daily without recognizing the pattern. They schedule demanding work during low energy periods and wonder why they feel exhausted and unproductive. They blame themselves for lack of discipline or motivation when the real problem is poor alignment between cycles and their task scheduling. This misalignment creates unnecessary stress and reduces the quality of their work output. The science behind circadian rhythms reveals why successful people align their most important work with their natural energy peaks, rather than fighting against their biological programming. Your body operates on internal clocks that regulate hormone production, body temperature, and mental alertness throughout each day. These rhythms create predictable periods when your brain performs optimally and other times when cognitive function naturally declines. Cortisol levels peak in the morning for most people, creating natural alertness and focus that makes early hours ideal for demanding mental work. Body temperature rises throughout the day and peaks in late afternoon, supporting physical energy and routine tasks during this period. Understanding these patterns allows you to schedule work that matches your biological capabilities instead of working against them. Research shows that energy-based scheduling can increase productivity by 45% compared to traditional time-based planning because it matches task demands with cognitive capacity. When you schedule analytical work during peak mental energy periods, you complete tasks faster and with fewer errors. When you handle routine activities during lower energy times, you maintain steady progress without depleting resources needed for demanding work. This productivity increase comes from working with your biology rather than against it. Your brain processes information more efficiently when neurotransmitter levels and hormone production support the type of thinking required for your current task. Forcing complex analysis during low energy periods requires more effort and produces inferior results compared to the same work completed during peak performance windows. Modern professionals identify their personal energy patterns by tracking alertness, focus, and motivation levels at different times throughout several weeks. They note when they feel mentally sharp versus when thinking feels sluggish. They observe which times of day produce their best creative insights and when routine tasks feel most manageable. This tracking reveals individual patterns that guide more effective daily scheduling. The tracking process involves rating your energy level on a simple scale every 2 hours for at least 2 weeks. Note whether you feel highly alert, moderately focused, or mentally fatigued. Record when you naturally want to tackle challenging work versus when you prefer easier activities. Look for consistent patterns that repeat across multiple days, as these reveal your personal energy rhythm. Sarah, a financial analyst, discovered this principle when she started tracking her energy levels throughout the day. She noticed that her analytical thinking peaked between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m., declined after lunch, then recovered slightly around 3 p.m. By scheduling her most complex financial modeling during morning hours and moving routine data entry to afternoon periods, she reduced the time required for analysis work by nearly 2 hours per day. Fixed schedules and meetings create challenges for energy-based scheduling, but successful people develop strategies to optimize around these constraints. They protect their peak energy hours whenever possible by scheduling meetings during naturally lower energy periods. When they must attend important meetings during peak times, they prepare thoroughly beforehand to minimize the energy drain and reserve time afterward for recovery. Specific strategies that allow people to protect their peak energy hours include communicating preferences to colleagues, batching similar activities together, and creating physical boundaries around focused work time. They might inform their team that they prefer meetings in the afternoon and deep work in the morning. They group all their phone calls into specific time blocks rather than scattering them throughout the day. Different types of tasks require different energy levels, and matching them effectively multiplies your productivity gains. Creative work like writing, designing, or strategic planning requires peak mental energy and should be scheduled during your highest alertness periods. Analytical tasks like data analysis, financial calculations, or complex problem-solving also benefit from peak energy, but may work during secondary high-energy windows. Administrative work like email processing, filing, or routine data entry can be completed effectively during moderate energy periods. Communication tasks like phone calls, quick meetings, or message responses work well during social energy peaks, which often occur in late morning or early afternoon for most people. Physical tasks like organizing, cleaning, or simple manual work can be scheduled during lower mental energy periods when your body still feels capable of movement. Small energy management changes create compound results because they preserve mental resources that accumulate throughout your day and week. When you stop fighting your natural rhythms, you reduce the energy waste that comes from forcing inappropriate work during unsuitable times. This preserved energy becomes available for additional productive work or for maintaining higher quality output on your most important projects. Managing energy rather than time creates sustainable productivity that doesn't lead to burnout because it respects your biological limitations instead of fighting against them. When you work with your natural rhythms, you accomplish more with less effort and maintain consistent performance over longer periods. However, even perfect daily energy management can lead you in completely the wrong direction without regular course correction. The weekly review revolution. The solution lies in implementing a structured weekly review process that acts as your strategic compass. Successful people spend 30 minutes each week on a specific review process that prevents months of wasted effort and misdirected energy. This weekly ritual has become so essential to high achievers that they protect this time more carefully than most people protect their vacation days. The practice seems simple on the surface, but the results separate people who achieve their long-term goals from those who stay busy without making meaningful progress toward what they actually want to accomplish. Daily planning keeps you moving forward, but it doesn't guarantee you're moving toward the right destination. You can execute your daily tasks perfectly while slowly drifting away from your most important objectives. This drift happens gradually and invisibly when you focus only on immediate tasks without stepping back to evaluate whether your daily actions align with your bigger goals. Most people discover this misalignment too late, often during major life transitions or annual performance reviews, when they realize they've been working hard on the wrong things. Weekly reviews create a feedback loop that helps people identify what's working and what needs adjustment before small problems become major obstacles. This feedback mechanism operates like a navigation system that constantly checks your current position against your intended destination. When you review your week, you can spot patterns in your productivity, identify activities that consume time without creating value, and recognize opportunities to realign your daily actions with your long-term priorities. The feedback loop works because weekly reviews provide enough data to identify meaningful patterns while maintaining close enough proximity to your daily actions to make specific adjustments. Daily reflection lacks sufficient perspective to see broader trends, while monthly or quarterly reviews create too much distance between feedback and adjustment opportunities. Weekly reviews hit the optimal frequency for course correction that keeps you moving toward your goals without overwhelming you with constant analysis. People who conduct weekly reviews achieve 52% more of their long-term goals than those who only plan daily, according to recent productivity research. This substantial improvement demonstrates the compound effect of regular course correction over time. Small weekly adjustments accumulate into major improvements in direction and effectiveness. The people who achieve more aren't necessarily working harder or longer hours. They're working more strategically because they regularly evaluate and adjust their approach based on real performance data. Effective weekly reviews start with identifying what you actually accomplished during the week, not what you worked on or how many hours you spent on various tasks. This accomplishment focus helps you distinguish between productive work that advances your goals and busy work that feels productive but creates little real value. The first question successful people ask during their weekly review is which activities produced the best results relative to the time invested. This question helps identify high-leverage activities that deserve more time and attention in future weeks. The second question focuses on what consumed significant time without producing proportional results. This analysis reveals time drains that should be eliminated or delegated to create space for more valuable work. The third critical question examines what important work got delayed or avoided during the week and why these delays occurred. This question helps people identify patterns in procrastination or resource allocation that prevent progress on their most important objectives. Daily execution provides the momentum and progress that moves projects forward, while weekly strategic thinking ensures that momentum flows in the right direction. People who excel at both maintain distinct time boundaries between execution mode and reflection mode to prevent analysis from disrupting their action-taking capacity. Many successful people conduct their weekly reviews on Friday afternoons as they transition from the current week to weekend planning. Others prefer Sunday evenings as they prepare for the upcoming week. Weekly reviews help people spot patterns in their productivity that aren't visible from day-to-day perspective, because they provide sufficient distance to see trends and cycles that unfold over longer periods. Daily perspective focuses on immediate tasks and urgent demands, while weekly perspective reveals recurring obstacles, energy patterns, and effectiveness trends that only become apparent when you examine multiple days together. These patterns might include discovering that certain types of meetings consistently drain your energy for the rest of the day, or recognizing that you're most creative during specific days of the week. The psychological benefits of celebrating weekly wins and learning from setbacks in a structured way create positive momentum that sustains long-term productivity improvements. Weekly reviews provide regular opportunities to acknowledge progress and success, which reinforces productive behaviors and maintains motivation during challenging periods. Structured learning from setbacks prevents people from repeating the same mistakes while avoiding the negative emotional spiral that often accompanies productivity failures. Weekly reviews tie all other productivity strategies together by providing a regular checkpoint for evaluating how well your systems are working in practice rather than theory. You can assess whether your daily planning is helping you focus on important work, whether your priority-setting methods are identifying the right tasks, and whether your energy management is improving your output quality. This integration prevents productivity strategies from operating in isolation and ensures they work together to support your overall effectiveness. Weekly reviews transform productivity from a daily struggle into a systematic approach to continuous improvement that compounds over time. Instead of hoping that daily effort will eventually lead to success, you develop a reliable process for ensuring your effort flows toward your most important objectives. This systematic approach creates confidence and reduces anxiety because you know you have regular opportunities to identify and correct any problems before they become serious obstacles. However, even the most carefully planned days and strategic weekly reviews can be derailed by the constant stream of interruptions that define modern work environments. The challenge isn't just managing your planned work anymore, handling interruptions and unexpected demands. The real challenge is learning to protect your focus while staying responsive to legitimate needs. The average knowledge worker gets interrupted every 3 minutes, according to 2025 workplace research. But top performers have developed specific strategies to maintain productivity despite this constant barrage of demands and distractions. These interruptions aren't just minor inconveniences that slow down your work. They represent a fundamental challenge to achieving meaningful results in modern work environments, where everyone expects immediate responses and constant availability. Most people underestimate the true cost of interruptions because they only count the time spent dealing with the immediate request. They don't account for the mental energy required to switch contexts, the time needed to regain focus afterward, or the quality reduction that occurs when their attention gets fragmented throughout the day. Research shows it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain focus after each interruption, which means frequent interruptions can prevent you from ever reaching your peak performance state. Unexpected demands can derail even the best planned days if you don't have systems to handle them effectively and maintain progress on your most important work. You might start your morning with clear priorities and a well-structured schedule, but a single urgent email or unexpected phone call can cascade into hours of reactive work that leaves your planned priorities untouched. Without systems for managing these demands, you end up spending entire days responding to other people's urgencies while your own important work gets pushed to tomorrow again and again. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people often comes down to how they respond when their planned day gets interrupted. Unsuccessful people abandon their priorities entirely when unexpected demands arise, spending the rest of their day in reactive mode. Successful people have developed methods for handling interruptions without losing sight of their most important objectives. They understand that interruptions are inevitable, but derailment is optional. The key to managing interruptions effectively starts with quickly distinguishing between urgent and important demands without losing focus on your current work. Most interruptions feel urgent to the person making the request, but very few actually require immediate attention. True emergencies are rare in most professions, yet people treat every interruption as if delaying their response would create catastrophic consequences. Successful people ask specific questions when interruptions occur that help them categorize requests quickly and respond appropriately. The first question they ask is whether this interruption involves a genuine emergency that could cause significant harm if not addressed immediately. Real emergencies might include safety issues, critical system failures, or time-sensitive opportunities with hard deadlines. Most workplace interruptions don't meet this threshold, despite feeling urgent to the requester. The second question high performers ask is whether they are the only person who can handle this request, or if someone else could address it equally well. Many interruptions occur because people default to asking whoever is most accessible rather than whoever is most appropriate for the task. Learning to redirect requests to more suitable people protects your time while ensuring requests get handled by people with the right skills and availability. Research shows that successful people build flexibility into their schedules without sacrificing their most important work by creating buffer zones and protection systems around their highest priority activities. They might schedule focused work blocks with built-in buffers before and after to handle unexpected demands without fragmenting their deep work time. This approach allows them to be responsive to legitimate needs while protecting the time required for their most valuable contributions. Effective professionals also batch their availability for interruptions into specific time periods rather than remaining constantly accessible throughout the day. They might designate certain hours for handling requests, questions, and collaborative work while protecting other periods for focused individual work. This batching approach reduces the frequency of context switching while ensuring they remain accessible when colleagues need support. Managing interruptions from colleagues, clients, and digital communications requires specific techniques that address each source of distraction differently. For colleague interruptions, successful people establish clear communication protocols about when they're available for questions versus when they need uninterrupted focus time. They might use visual signals like closed doors or specific locations that indicate focus time, or they might communicate their daily availability schedule to team members. Client communication management involves setting clear expectations about response times and preferred communication methods during the onboarding process. Instead of training clients to expect immediate responses to every message, Successful professionals establish specific times for client communication and stick to these boundaries consistently. This approach actually improves client relationships because it sets realistic expectations and ensures that when they do respond, they can give full attention to client needs. Digital communication interruptions require the most systematic approach because they occur constantly and feel more urgent than they actually are. Successful people turn off non-essential notifications during focused work periods and batch their email and message processing into specific time slots. They might check email 3 times per day at predetermined times rather than responding to messages as they arrive throughout the day. Communication strategies that reduce unnecessary interruptions while maintaining important relationships. Focus on being proactive rather than reactive in your communication approach. This means providing regular updates on project progress before people ask for them, anticipating questions and providing information in advance, and establishing clear channels for different types of communication needs. When people feel informed and know how to reach you appropriately, they're less likely to interrupt with unnecessary requests. Quickly assessing whether an interruption requires immediate attention or can be scheduled for later becomes easier with practice and clear criteria for evaluation. The assessment process should take less than 30 seconds to avoid losing momentum on your current work. If the interruption doesn't meet your criteria for immediate attention, you can quickly schedule it for your next available communication period and return to your focused work without significant mental disruption. Interruption management skills enhance all other productivity strategies because they protect the time and mental space required for effective planning, prioritization, and execution. When you can't protect your focus time, even the best productivity systems become ineffective because you never have the sustained attention required to complete important work at a high level. These individual strategies become powerful when they work together as part of a complete system designed for your specific situation. Building your personal productivity system. Creating your personal productivity system requires understanding how each technique connects with the others to form a complete approach. The evening planning sets your foundation, list making organizes your thinking, priority setting focuses your energy, single tasking maximizes your output, project completion creates momentum, digital tools support your workflow, energy management sustains your performance, weekly reviews keep you on track, and interruption management protects your focus. When these elements combine properly, they create a system that multiplies your effectiveness far beyond what any single technique could achieve alone. Small, consistent improvements in daily structure compound into dramatic long-term results that transform not just your productivity, but your entire career trajectory. When you improve your daily effectiveness by just 10%, that improvement multiplies over weeks, months, and years. A 10% daily improvement means you accomplish roughly twice as much meaningful work over the course of a year compared to your previous output. These gains compound because better daily structure leads to better decisions, which create better opportunities, which generate better results in an upward spiral of improvement. The compounding effect works because productivity improvements build on themselves. When you complete more important projects, you develop better skills and stronger professional relationships. When you manage your energy effectively, you maintain higher performance levels that allow you to tackle more challenging work. When you handle interruptions well, you protect more time for deep work that produces your best results. Each improvement supports and amplifies the others, creating total performance gains that far exceed the sum of individual improvements. Starting implementation gradually, rather than trying to overhaul everything at once, gives you the best chance of making these strategies stick long-term. Most people fail when they attempt to change their entire productivity system overnight. They try to implement evening planning, new list-making methods, different priority systems, and energy management simultaneously. This approach overwhelms their capacity for change and leads to abandoning the entire effort when any single element becomes difficult. The gradual approach succeeds because it respects how your brain forms new habits and integrates new behaviors into existing routines. Choose one strategy that addresses your biggest current productivity challenge and focus on implementing it consistently for 3 to 4 weeks before adding anything else. This timeline allows your brain to automate the new behavior, so it requires less conscious effort to maintain. Week 1 through 2 focuses on establishing the basic habit through repetition and consistency. Week 3 through 4 involves refining the technique and adapting it to your specific circumstances. Week 5 through 6 centers on integration, making sure your new habit works well with your existing routines and responsibilities. Only after this foundation is solid should you add the next productivity strategy to your system. The implementation timeline that produces the best long-term results follows a specific sequence based on which strategies create the foundation for others. Start with evening planning because it supports all other productivity techniques by creating clear direction for each day. After evening planning becomes automatic, add priority setting to your daily routine because knowing what matters most guides how you use all other productivity methods. Next, implement single tasking during your most important work because this protects the time you've planned and prioritized from distractions and interruptions. Once you can maintain focus on important tasks, add energy management by scheduling your most demanding work during peak performance periods. After these core habits are established, integrate weekly reviews to ensure your daily actions align with your long-term goals. Different work environments require adaptations of these principles to address specific challenges and opportunities. Remote workers need stronger boundaries between work and personal time, making evening planning and energy management especially important. They often benefit from creating physical spaces dedicated to focused work and developing routines that signal the start and end of their workday. Office-based workers face different challenges, particularly around managing interruptions and protecting focus time in environments designed for collaboration. They need specific strategies for communicating availability, creating visual signals for focus periods, and batching collaborative work into designated time blocks. The key is adapting the principles to work within existing office culture while still protecting time for important individual work. Common obstacles and setbacks that people encounter when building new productivity habits include falling back into old patterns during stressful periods, perfectionism that leads to abandoning efforts after minor mistakes, and attempting to change too much too quickly. The solution involves expecting setbacks as part of the learning process rather than signs of failure. When setbacks occur, focus on getting back to your new habits as quickly as possible rather than waiting for perfect conditions to restart. One missed day of evening planning doesn't mean you should abandon the practice for a week. Resume the habit the next day and treat the setback as valuable information about what situations challenge your new routines. This data helps you prepare better strategies for similar challenges in the future. Key metrics that help people track their progress and stay motivated during the adjustment period focus on behaviors rather than outcomes initially. Track how consistently you complete your evening planning, how often you single task during focused work periods, and how well you protect your peak energy hours for important work. These behavioral metrics provide immediate feedback and help you identify which aspects of your system need refinement. Customization based on personality type, work style, and personal preferences ensures your productivity system aligns with your natural tendencies rather than fighting against them. Detail-oriented people often prefer comprehensive planning systems with extensive categorization, while big-picture thinkers might need simpler systems that focus on major priorities without getting lost in minor tasks. Morning people should schedule their most important work early in the day, while evening people might find their peak performance hours later in the day. The specific first steps you can take today include conducting an evening planning session tonight by writing down your 3 most important tasks for tomorrow. Choose the single biggest productivity challenge you currently face and select one strategy to address that challenge. Set a start date for implementing your chosen strategy and commit to practicing it consistently for at least 3 weeks before evaluating its effectiveness. Your system should evolve as your responsibilities change, your skills develop, and your goals shift. The principles remain constant, but the specific applications should adapt to serve your current needs and circumstances. What matters most is finding an approach that works consistently for your unique situation, rather than trying to follow someone else's blueprint exactly. The foundation you build today determines your productivity for years to come. Structuring your day for maximum impact isn't about copying someone else's system perfectly. It's about understanding these principles and adapting them to create your own sustainable approach that fits your specific work environment, energy patterns, and goals. The most effective productivity system is the one you'll actually use consistently. Start tonight with just one technique. Choose evening planning and write down your 3 most important tasks for tomorrow. Build from there by adding one new strategy every few weeks until you have a complete system that works for your situation. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people often comes down to how they structure their